Good morning, and I trust that your day is as bright and sunny as I am here in Guyana. If not, I'm sending a virtual ray of hope that your day will soon be as sunny as my day. Well, we've made it to Pets Day 6 of Pets 2022. Welcome as we begin to wrap up Pets 2022. I wish to especially acknowledge the presence of our DG. I know she's very busy, and I know that she's preparing the red carpet for us. She is waiting in the wings, and she shall give us an update on the conference in a minute. DG Leslie, I know that you're this close to becoming DG, and I know you're very excited. Distinguished PDGs on the line, all district leaders on the call, welcome to our incoming leaders. I know this is an exciting journey you're about to begin. So please enjoy today's session and make sure that you are able to ask and clarify any issues you may have. And yes, we've allotted some time for Q&A. There are two presentations today, and I would ask both presenters if we can take the questions at the end of both presentations, please, because there may be questions that might be overlapping the presentation. I'm Ms. Cox, and I shall be your moderator for today. I'm supported by my district training team, the district secretary-elect Alana, our translators Mavis, Vicky, and Natalie, and we're zoomed in by Sean. Today we're going to hear from two individuals, two PDGs, Pdg Wadi and Pdg Lara, who have distinguished themselves in the area of foundation. You're going to hear how and why it all started, how communities have benefited, and how you can actually apply for some grants. So please give generously and be able so that we can all access funds. Apart from membership, I think that the area of foundation and grants have always been the most requested areas for training. So please capitalize on this opportunity to get your questions answered or any things you had buzzing around in your head clarified. Before I ask DGE to open today's session, I wish to invite DG Sonia to share some conference updates with us. So DG Sonia, please.
Thank you so much, Liz. Good morning to everybody. DGE Leslie, sir. It's almost there, bud. PDGs, thank you for joining this morning's session. Thanks for the support. And of course, to all of you leaders on the line, joining on a Saturday morning, this final session before journeying to Barbados to take part in the physical PETSN conference. This morning, it's just very quickly, I'm just going to go through again what the sessions are, and also to announce that the virtual registration has opened for those not being able to attend in person. So let me just get to that. So just letting you know that we're ready. The team is almost at the point of setting up the venues. We are looking forward to an exciting couple of days starting April 7th, where we have, of course, the final PET session, which I'm sure that Liz and the DGE will talk about. And then we have, of course, on that evening, we're opening the hospitality suite for some fellowship and some fellowship water, as my Rotaractors call it, and some good reconnecting of friendships and forming new friendships. Then, of course, we have the opening ceremony the next morning at the Hilton Hotel. That starts at 8:30 sharp. And that session, of course, from there, the sessions will be streamed for the members of the district who have registered for the online version to see. We go through the conference session that day, lots of presentations, lots of projects to see. And we have a very special guest, during the day on Monday who will come to spend a little time with us as well. But that is, you're going to find out who that is on the day and at the time, not a minute before. Then, of course, we head right into the Beijing extravaganza, Beijing hospitality night on the beach at Copacabana, where we'll have some live artists passing through, lots of fellowship water, lots of food, lots of liming to happen. And but we can't line too late, because next morning, bright and early, 6 o'clock, we're on the road for polio awareness. And that happens 6 to 7. That's an activity that we want to really try and, one, raise the awareness of polio for the community surrounding us here in Barbados, but also to see if we can do a little fundraiser and to raise some much needed polio funds. So bring your red shirts, make a contribution. We're saying like 20 US, but if you want to do more, please do more, all for the polio fund. And we head right back to the Hilton for a 9 o'clock start, where we get through the rest of the conference activities and, of course, the business of the day. The business of the day being the voting of the resolutions and so on. But we're also going to hear a little bit about Grenada in 2023. We're going to hear something about Houston later on this year. And so we're really going to be talking a little bit about what truly being a Rotarian is all about, and connecting at these conferences and conventions. Then we close the business and we head to the party. On Saturday night will be the all-white masquerade, where we're going to have, it's an all-white affair, the fancy masks if you'd like to. Gentlemen, we're talking chic party wear, right? So white shirts, make sure some shorts if you want, but we're doing chic. We're definitely doing this in style. It's not formal, but it is going to be cute. So we want all those pictures looking fabulous. Face masks for the ladies if they want. They bring their own masks, they decorate them, whatever. Just come looking, and we're ready to have a great evening on the Saturday night. But as I mentioned, the virtual conference has been, the virtual conference viewing has been opened. We're having $200 for clubs sizes 40 and under, 300 US for clubs greater than 40. So please go to the Rotary District website, pay. The portal is right there. I know some people are having problems registering, because I had a couple messages, but just check that your credit cards are not blocked for making those payments to Barbados or to the portal, and see if maybe just change the credit card and see if it works. But 200 for clubs under 40 in number, 300 for over 40. So join us. Those are going to be really, remember what last year was like, where we had those, the virtual conference, similar, where we're going to be moving around, seeing what's going on in Barbados. And most importantly, what I also have to say is that the conference app will be very much in use. So we're looking forward to seeing you all in Barbados in another few days. The team is ready, I'm ready, my fellowship water is in hand, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of you in a few days. Liz, thank you so much for the opportunity this morning. Leslie, thank you and best of luck today. I'm gonna stick around for a while. My meetings don't start until 11, so I'll be here. Thanks.
Right. Thank you, DG Sonia. Stylishly casual, that's it. Stylishly casual. Thank you. DG, can you please do the
Yeah, good. Thanks, Liz.
You're
Good
welcome.
morning all, and welcome to our PETS number 6, or final virtual meeting of PETS. I want to welcome all our PDGs who have joined us this morning. I see our DGNN also joining us. Welcome, Debbie. Good to have you here. To all participants, President-elects, Secretary-elects, to our district training team, of course, thank you for hosting this session. Today, we are embarking on one of the very important avenues in Rotary, the Rotary Foundation, our award-winning foundation. It is our foundation. We are the ones who support it. And if we support it, we need to know why we need to support it and what the foundation does for us. So this is a really, really important event this morning. We have 2 experts presenting, Pdg Wadi and Pdg Lara. I encourage all participants to please pay very close attention. We know there are a lot of questions on foundations, sorry. So this program this morning will certainly help you to understand more about the foundation, why it is that we need to continue contributing to the foundation, benefits that can be derived from the foundation. But as you know, they always say you only get some out of something what you put into it. So I urge all attendees here to please pay particular attention to what is being said this morning. And of course, please feel free to ask your questions at the end of the presentation. So once again, welcome all, and Liz, back to you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, DG Leslie. Thank you, PGD David, for, I know you have a busy day today. I know you have a project. Thank you for being here, always giving us some good inspiration and good spirit as well. And DGN, Debbie, glad to see you as well. Okay, so I'd like to, well, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our 2 presenters this morning, and I'll introduce both of them in the interest of time. So I'll head first with Wadi. Wadi is going to be our first presenter this morning. So Pdg Wadi, welcome. And a little bit about Pdg, and I must tell you, for both of them, this is just an abridged version of what they represent that I'm trying to get it this morning and to share with you. So Pdg Wadi is a charter member of the very vibrant Rotary Club of Palm Harbor residents, where he served in various roles for the last 20 years. And those roles are club president, secretary, treasurer. Those were some of the roles. At the district level, Wadi served as an AG, district secretary, and was elected to serve the district at the highest level as district governor in 2017-2018. I'm sure some of you who have attended that conference in Suriname would remember Wadi and how he made it special for everybody, like every other conference, but it was very special for me in Suriname itself. Wadi loves to attend district conferences, and I know, and RI conventions. I've seen him at quite a bit. He and his group kind of really bring everything into action. He likes to do that because he wants to meet new friends and meet, catch up with the old friends as well. The foundation holds a special place in Wadi's heart, having direct experience seeing the funds returned via grants, which allowed his club to complete many water and sanitation projects. Of course, you would realize that Wadi is in fact a Paul Harris Society member and a major donor level 2 to the Rotary Foundation. On the professional side, Wadi worked in banking for a few years. However, in 1989, he started his own business of import and retail for ready-to-wear clothing. I must visit you when I come back to Suriname. So please welcome Wadi. Pdg Lara, she has been a very active Rotarian serving communities for 23 years and is currently a member of the Rotary Club of Central Port of Spain, Trinidad. Pdg Lara served in multiple roles in her club, including president. She's very well known for successfully coordinating 5 regional MUN conference, Model United Nations assemblies. And I would always remember Pdg Lara, because she was the DG who stepped out of the norm and held a district conference and PET on a cruise. Her Rotary journey saw her serving in several positions at the district level. As was mentioned, district governor, to name a few. She also served as district chairs for literacy, public image, training, and is our current grants chair, hence the reason why she's here today, and represents us, the district, on the Council of Legislation. On a professional level, Lara is the founder and chairman of Regency Recruitment and Resources Limited. She currently serves as president of the Trinidad and Tobago Organization of Recruitment Service Providers. She's also the founding member and was the first president of the Association of Female Executives of Trinidad and Tobago. And I shall stop here. I can go on and on. So fellow Rotarians, please join me in giving a warm welcome to both of our presenters this morning. Both of them have distinguished themselves in the areas in which they will share with you this morning. So Pdg Lara, the frame is yours.
Thank you, District Trainer-elect Liz. All protocols observed. So I will start the presentation. As DT Liz already said, today's presentation is about the foundation, and I have the honor to do this presentation together with Pdg Lara, our grants chair for this year, but also for the coming year. So what we will do today is I will concentrate on the foundation and especially the global grants. And Pdg Lara will do her presentation about district grants and everything that has to do with qualifications and things for very important matters for our clubs, our district and our clubs to be able to apply for a grant, district or global grant. So especially pay attention, would love if you pay attention to what Pdg Lara has to say about the requirements. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time, attendees, presidents, presidents-elects, everybody in the call. And so let's start the presentation. Doing good in the world. That is the motto of our foundation. And the foundation you will have to see as the vehicle, the support vehicle, financial support vehicle of what we do as Rotarians, what our goals are as Rotarians, to reach our goals, to in fact enable us to really create that lasting change, to create across the globe, in our communities, in ourselves too. So for me, for us, I think that the Rotary Foundation is very, very critical. And we have to understand what the Rotary Foundation can do for us, yes, how they can support us. But on the other hand, we have to support the Rotary Foundation too. That is more or less the conclusion that we will have to make at the end of this session. What is, so we will start with what is the Rotary Foundation, how it started, the mission, and the tools the Rotary Foundation has to let's say, support us as Rotarians. We're focusing on district grants and global grants, and of course, what I already said, the funding. And I think that DG Leslie especially has already mentioned that, and we have to give in order to get. The start of our foundation. We're going back to 1917 at the convention, where the then sitting RI president suggested to start with the Endowment Fund. And that Endowment Fund, the first contribution was $26.50, later became the Rotary Foundation in 1928. Yeah? So it started as an endowment fund. We have to keep in mind that it's a separate entity. It is separate, that it is not, there is a separate board of trustees. Yeah, so it's of course consisting of Rotarians and especially past RI presidents, but it is still a separate entity. In 1917, at a convention in Atlanta, President Clumph suggested to start the endowment. And yeah, as I said already, it consists of high-level Rotarians, of which a few are former RI presidents. The motto of our foundation is doing good in the world. And the mission to do that good in the world is enable Rotarians, support Rotarians to advance world understanding, goodwill, and peace through the improvement of health, support of education, the alleviation of poverty. In fact, through the 7 areas of focus. Yeah, but what's important, it enables us, it supports us. Yeah. What kind of grants do we have? Or at least what kind of grants do we want to focus on today? District grants, global grants, disaster response grants, and programs of scale. And today, as I said before, we will, our focus will be more on district grants and global grants. Still, we have to say something a little bit about the district response grants. They support the relief and recovery efforts in areas affected by natural disaster. We have seen that in our district. And it's funded by contributions to the Rotary Disaster Response Fund. So it's a separate fund, yeah, that is funded by, let's say, separate contributions, you know, not what we will see later, the annual fund. Programs of scale, then we're talking about long-term activities that benefit large number of people. For sure, alignment with the areas of focus. In fact, all grants are, so financial support is part of, should be aligned with the areas of focus. It comes out of the World Fund, and it's award of $2 million. So we're really talking about a big project. It is always implemented with partner organizations. Yes, and it is a competitive 2-step application process. So yes, it's big, very big, and it serves more than, let's say, a country or a community. It serves, yeah, a big area, a large area. Global grants. When we talk about global grants, the name says it all. The term global. It should be international, and it should be aligned with Rotary's areas of focus. It's about humanitarian projects, vocational training teams, and scholarships. And all these 3 kind of, let's say, projects or grants we can get as clubs, should be aligned with the areas of focus. Humanitarian projects, we're thinking about sanitation, health, environment. very important, and not very, yes, very important, and is the focus on vocational training teams. I think that you can imagine since we want to create lasting change, training in whatever global grant you do, whatever project you do, should be an essential part. And that's why vocational training teams are very, there is a, let's say, the foundation will, if you can come up with a project whereby vocational training teams are involved, they will certainly look at your project with much more interest than if that's not the case. So yes, 3 kind of projects: humanitarian, vocational, and scholarships. Global grant projects. Here we see a few requirements. And normally you will not see, when we talk about the requirements of the global grant, the first one I'm mentioning here, and that is the guide to global grants. Myself, I have the experience that back in those days when it was matching grants, that reading and more or less studying what's in the guide, and then it was, I think, the manual of matching grants, that it's very important to start with that. Whenever you think the club thinks about doing a global grant, I'm sure, I'm convinced that you need to study, to read very carefully the guide to global grants. Because in that guide, you will read and see all the requirements, all that is needed to come up with a good global grant. A few of the requirements are, it has to, the project has to have a minimum budget of $30,000. It's a global grant, so you have to look for a partner in another country, of course. And it has to be aligned with the 7 areas of focus. It has to be sustainable, measurable outcomes, and later on, Pdg Lara will tell you about the qualification that is needed by the club to be able to apply for a global grant. The areas of focus, I think that we all, as Rotarians, seasoned Rotarians, know that we now have 7 areas of focus. So they are listed here, and the global grant has, once again, the project has to be aligned with one of these areas of focus. Sustainability, very, very important. If your global grant project is not sustainable, you will not get it approved. Sustainability in this case is about what will happen when the project is done and no Rotarians around to support, in what kind of way, financially or expertise, whatever. So sustainability is about the steps after, will this project continues after Rotarians have finished the project and the project has come to an end. That is sustainability. And in order to reach sustainability, to get to sustainability, there are a few steps that we have to take in when considering a global grant project. First and foremost, we have to start with the community. Even if you're part of the community, you have to talk to the community. You have to get engaged with the community. They have to tell you what they want. Don't tell them what you think that they need. That's very, very important. So a community assessment of the needs of the community is the first thing, the first step you will have to take to start building a good project, to start planning a good project. You have to encourage local ownership. Let the community be a part of that project. Let they come with their expertise. Let they come with their maybe financial input, one way or the other. For example, when I was involved in sanitation projects, we let the community. We asked for the community to come in with a certain percentage of the budget. So with that, we thought we could get some buy-in from them. Also provide training. As I said before, training is a very important part, very critical part in a global grant. And in fact, in every project that we do, we should have some kind of training. Because training, as we know, will last for a long time. And so that's why it will add to the sustainability of the project. Buy local. Why local? Because most of the time you have then the expertise to, especially if it's something technical, that you can buy very easily. And of course, you're supporting the community, the local community, if you buy local. Yeah. So it's an added benefit of such a project. Find local funding. I already mentioned that. Local funding from the community, but also local funding from, let's say, companies or other organizations that want to support this project, and maybe they can support you, financially support this project too. And of course, measure your success. How do we measure our success? We have to start with, let's say, a base measure. You have to start with the beginning and see what you have accomplished in the end. So yes, you have to, your success has to be measurable. Don't come up with, that is done in general. Let's say we want to have more fun. I think in some of the other, in another session, I think, what is his name? Mike Caruso said, don't come up with the goal of you will have more fun. No, you have to measure, you have, there has to be some numbers. So you can really measure it and you can really say that you really accomplish your goals, accomplish the goals of the project. So once again, these six steps of sustainability are critical for the project, for a global grant. If we look at grant statistics from the foundation, district grants, 467, and global grants, 2,066 grants in 2021. and disaster response grants, 3.1 million. So talking about global grants, you see that the Rotary Foundation really supports global grants. You can see it in the figures. So it's a very important part of, let's say, the goals, reaching the goals, reaching the mission, supporting the mission of the Rotary Foundation. This is an update about Rotaract. Rotaract clubs can participate in grants starting in July 2022. But they have to partner with Rotary clubs, and there should be prior experience with global grants. So this will be a process, but since we started seeing the Rotary clubs and the Rotaract clubs and the Rotaract members as partners in our Rotary family, and also the ability for them to either be to be a Rotaractor and a Rotarian. This is, of course, the next step. You have to include them in our Rotary Foundation. Once again, it will be a learning experience for them, but our clubs, they will have to, let's say, move them into this learning process and guide them in this learning process. And I think the district, of course, should lead the way, and what we will do too. Funding. We have seen a lot of grants. We have seen the grants that the Rotary Foundation has awarded to clubs around the world. And the funding of the foundation is going through donations to a few funds: the Annual Fund, the World Fund, the Endowment Fund, and the Polio Plus Fund. I will concentrate on the Annual Fund and the World Fund, but especially the Annual Fund, because out of the Annual Fund, we get funding, is a primary source of our funding for foundation grants, be it district grants or global grants. And the Rotary Foundation encourages support for the Annual Fund, the ERI program, every Rotarian every year. And it doesn't matter how small or big your contribution is, your donation is, but yes, we need donations to the fund. We need donations to the foundation in order for us to apply for more grants. The contributions we do to the Annual Fund as a member, as clubs, are divided between the World Fund and the DDF, the District Designated Fund, something I will, I think the next slide, I will go into. And of course, there are operating expenses, and 5% of these contributions are meant for the operating expenses. Why should we give? Because donations make it possible to support projects through district grants, global grants, and it helps us, these projects. That is why we are doing these projects. That's why we are executing these projects. We want to create lasting change, and you cannot create lasting change if you don't take action. And we take action through our projects. District designated fund. Whatever we contribute in a certain year to the annual fund will come back to us after 3 years with for more or less 50%, 47.5%. With that DDF that is available to the district, after 3 years, we have donated. That empowers the district to undertake projects that are important to us in the district. District grants for the local small projects, and the global grants, also important to us in our communities. Let me say something more about the district designated fund. But because someone could easily say, but wait, we put in 100% and we're getting only 47.5%, let's say half of it back. But you know, DDF, whenever, especially if we do a global grant, if we use DDF, let's say 5,000 or 10,000 to make it easier, 80% of that 10,000 will be matched by the foundation. So our 10 given to the project, awarded to the project, will become 18,000. But since it's a global project, since it's a global grant, and in partnership with a club outside, we can ask that club to go to their district and see if there is some DDF available in their district for this project. And for example, if that other district wants to contribute 10,000 to the project, then the match will be also 10,000, from 10,000, 8,000. So out of DDF, and especially in, of course, we're talking about global grants, there is some kind of, I call it a multiplier effect. By engaging, by partnering with other districts, and we can ask for DDF from them. And once again, that will be matched too. So in the end, what we have given to the foundation has created a great funding source for us, for our projects. And especially if we partner with more than one district. The World Fund supports the grants, the local grants, and programs available to all Rotary districts. It matched, as I said, our DDF for global grants, and these funds, they come out of the World Fund. Let me see if I think I missed something, and that is about, or I want to stress something at the end. Why should we give? Why should you give? Yes, to make it possible that we get financial support for district grants and global grants. And one thing I want to talk about is, as a district governor, my experience was with some Rotarians that they were some kind of reluctant, not comfortable to donate to the foundation. For example, if you're talking about the Paul Harris Fellow, to become a Paul Harris Fellow, a lot of our Rotarians, many of our Rotarians, want to get a Paul Harris Fellow, an award, Paul Harris Award. Their opinion is you have to earn it. You don't need, you must not buy it. You should not buy it. And I think that's a wrong perception of what the Paul Harris Award recognition is all about. The Paul Harris recognition has started, and everything we donate to the foundation, but especially the Paul Harris recognition, it started when it started to fund the foundation. It was not mentioned to give an award to someone. Yes, you can give that award to a Paul Harris Award to someone, but in order to do that, you will have to donate to the foundation. So I would say you can either earn one, yes, or you can, as we say, or some Rotarians say, you can buy one. But buying one is the meaning of it, the true meaning of it, the essential meaning of it is that you're supporting the Rotary Foundation. You're supporting our bank. You're supporting, in fact, through your donation, you're supporting the projects in order for us, in order for Rotary to create that lasting change. So I would ask Rotarians, the ones that think that donating to the foundation is like showing off your financial means. Let they rethink that and see, understand, think about it, discuss with themselves and with others that in order for us to do great projects, bigger projects, projects with more sustainability, projects with more that will create more lasting change, you need financial means. And as a Rotarian, I see it as an obligation. If you're a Rotarian, what I've heard, you have 3 ways of being what I would say a Rotarian. Your expertise, your time, and your treasure, your money. And since we are different people, we don't have one person. I mean, we don't have everything the same. Some will have some more money, some will have more time, some will have more expertise. But altogether, it comes to one Rotarian, to one true Rotarian. So whatever you have, how small it is, please, if you're talking about donations, if you're talking about supporting the foundation, start with giving at least $25. What I've seen, if you look at the figures, is that there are still some clubs, and that is not, let's say, incidental. We have clubs in our district let's say between 11 to 14, 15 clubs per year for the last 5 years that have not donated to the annual fund. And once again, I think as a true Rotarian, you have to look how you can support, how you can contribute to the 3 elements of being a Rotarian: time, treasure, and talent. Another thing, and that's really the last thing I want to say, is that our clubs, and especially since we're talking today, we're presenting today to the presidents-elect and secretary-elect, we have to do more about applying for district and global grants. We are not getting enough. We are not fully, how we want to say that, the potentials we have, yeah, in getting funds for our projects, we're not really into that. And for the last few years too, monies are being carried over to another year. That is what it means, is that funds available to us, to the clubs, are not applied for. I mean, there are not enough projects, and I would really encourage the clubs, the presidents, and the secretaries-elect in this call, please, for the coming year, start thinking and looking for projects that you can apply. You can apply for funds, and the district would gladly get involved and see how we can get more projects and, of course, more funding out of the Rotary Foundation. Thank you, and thank you for your attention. And later on, I will answer any question you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Wadi. That's quite a bit of information, a mouthful of information, and I know that that was an impassioned plea, and I think DG Sonia is continuing on that path at the conference in Barbados, so that we can give some more to the foundation, whether it's polio or whether it's to the annual fund. Monies will be coming, and I totally agree with you in terms of the district grants, because the statistics you shared here also show that globally district grants are not being tapped into the way it should be, and there are monies there to be had. So thank you so much. I know Pdg Lara is waiting in the wings, so Pdg Lara, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Pdg Wadi, for that excellent presentation. Good morning, fellow Rotarians from across District 7030. My thanks to DGE Leslie for inviting Wadi and I to share some insights into the Rotary Foundation, and in particular our grants. As you heard, I have had the honor of being your district grants chair for a couple of years. I don't think they're ever going to let me stop doing it. I feel like it's a lifetime appointment. But very happy to do it, because as Wadi said, we are, as a district, very committed to supporting your clubs, your projects in any way that we can. That is our job as district leaders, is to really help the clubs realize their full potential and truly serve their communities. So let me share my screen. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you a bit about district grants. For our French Rotarians, you will see some of my slides may just have only English, but the next slide will be the French translation. So just because there's a lot of information, we couldn't fit everything onto some of the slides. So don't panic if you don't see the French, it's coming. So district grants. District grants, unlike global grants, which are $30,000 US or more, are for projects or partial funding of projects the grant of up to 30,000 US dollars. They are typically short-term projects that can be executed within the Rotary year, where global grant projects will typically be multiple year projects, much larger. They are required to be community oriented, the same way that global grants are, but there's not quite the same necessity for it to be sustainable, although of course it is always better to have projects that are going to have a sustainable impact in the community. As with everything in Rotary, we suggest that you align your projects with our 7 areas of focus. And the way that a district grant is awarded is that the district applies for a block of funding, which we then distribute to the clubs that have met the criteria, applied and been approved for funding. So the district manages the grant money for district grants, as opposed to global grant funding, which is managed by the foundation. So district grants are typically for smaller, short-term projects to be executed within a Rotary year. We have given district grants of 1,000 US dollars, 10,000 US dollars. So it doesn't have to be a massive project, but it may also be just to top up the funding on a project that you already have some of the money and you just need a little extra just to enable you to execute. And I know that there are Rotarians on this call who have themselves, their own clubs benefited from district grants. So we know that the funding that we're able to give you through district grants really does make a very positive difference in communities. In order for your club to be eligible for grants, of course, you have to have paid all your dues. So you need to be financially up to date. If you have had any grants in the past, whether from the district or the foundation, global grants, you must be up to date on your reporting. We ask that for clubs to be considered for district grants, they must have given to the foundation for at least 3 years prior to the application. We did make an exception for a club that was founded in a particular year to a new club, but they also gave quite a lot to the foundation in their first year of existence. So there is some level of discernment at the district grants committee level. We will look at the situation and we do have a bit of discretion. But for clubs that have been in existence for a while, if you have not given to the foundation for the last 3 years, you will not be eligible for a district grant because you cannot take from a pot that you have not put into. It's not fair. We also require that at least one member of your club attend the district grant seminar, which is what we're doing today. During the Rotary year, we generally have 2 or 3 seminars on district grants, on the foundation, on grants. So if you know a club that's not here today, maybe there are some assistant governors with us. If you know that there are clubs that are talking about district grants but are not attending today, make sure that you reach out to us. We can run grant seminars for clubs, smaller clusters if they need them, because you do have to do this training as part of your pre-qualification. We do require that financial statements are prepared for the previous Rotary year. Stewardship of the funds is critical, and I will talk a bit about that. But we ask that clubs either have had a paid audit done, an external audit, not by a member of the club, or at the very least, financial statements prepared by a professional, just some form of external audit of your stewardship of funding, whether it's from your fundraising activities, your members' dues, all of those different things. Because even though we trust Rotarians, we do want to see that your stewardship mechanisms are solid. For a district grant, as I said, alignment with the 7 areas of focus is not mandatory, but with all things Rotary, we recommend it. And of course, they're so broad that it's very easy to align your project anyway. And then critically, you must have a foundation chair in your club and report it to Rotary Club Central by the end of June. So if your club does not have a foundation chair already, something that you need to get on, because that person is going to be a key liaison for us. So here is the French. For what I've just said, I'll just give our French colleagues a moment to read through. I will not attempt to read it and mangle the beautiful language. And of course, these slides will be available. The recording will be available, so you can always go back through it. Okay. Carrying on with eligibility. You must upload your foundation goals to Rotary Club Central during this Rotary year. So all of us are required as clubs to put our goals for membership, foundation, public image, etc. onto Rotary Club Central. This is your giving goals. What is your club going to give to polio, to the annual fund, to the various programs of the Rotary Foundation? Those must be uploaded onto Rotary Club Central during this year before Leslie becomes governor, because we will go and look to see not just what you've pledged for the coming year, of course, but what you've given in the past. There is a Memorandum of Understanding that will be emailed to all incoming presidents, if it has not already been done by your governor-elect, that both the outgoing and the incoming presidents must sign and send to me by the end of June. This is an absolutely essential document. It has been prepared. If the translation into French is not done already, I know that's being done, so you will get that soon. You should get it before you go to Barbados. And this document has to be signed by the president who's leaving and the president who's coming in. We ask that clubs establish a separate bank account to receive grant money. Now, this is particularly important for a global grant because the sum of money is so huge. For a district grant, if it really is too difficult to open a new bank account, and if there's anybody on here from Trinidad, you'll know, Giselle and Tanya and Anna and others will know, it's a nightmare to open a new bank account in Trinidad. So we will make an exception if you can show us how the funds are going to be reported, how it's going to be separately accounted for. The club has to identify 2 people as project leaders. It could be your foundation chair and another director of your club. It doesn't even have to be directors, but there need to be at least 2 people that we can liaise with to check in on the progress of the project. And all of your budget, your reporting must be done in US dollars. So just give our French fellows a chance to read that. I know it says enclosed. I apologize. It was enclosed in the email that I sent. So all of you will receive a package from DGE Leslie that is your complete grants package. It includes all of these eligibility criteria. It includes the MOU, and it includes the application form. It's all in one document. So that has been prepared. I have done the document for the new Rotary year. It is now to be sent to all of the incoming presidents so that you have all this information to hand. Okay, let's have a look at the timelines. If you wish to apply for a district grant in the new Rotary year, you have to do so by the end of September. This is for Rotaract and Rotary. You may know that Rotaractors are going to be eligible to apply for grants this coming Rotary year. So for all clubs, Rotaract and Rotary, if you wish to apply, you must submit your application by the 30th of September. And of course, meet the other timelines, such as uploading your foundation goals, selecting your foundation chair, and so on. You can send the applications to me. You should copy DG Leslie and of course our foundation chair Wadi. But worst case scenario, just send it to me and I will make sure that they receive a copy, because the decision to award grants will be made by myself, Wadi and Leslie. We are the committee that will review the applications look at your giving history, look to see whether you've met the criteria, and then make a decision about funds. We will inform you of our decisions as quickly as we can. We have in the past been able to make the decision within the month of October to be able to submit the block application to RI in the month of October so that the funds can be released and dispersed in the month of November. So depending, we've had some challenges with district bank accounts and funds moving around the islands, but in theory, our goal is during the month of October, we review and make our decision and apply. In the month of November, if you have been approved, you should receive your grant. So really your scheduling of the project should be January to June of the second half of the Rotary year, because you should have the funds in your account by December. We know sometimes it can be delayed, but that's the timeline that we work with. So 30th of September, submit your application. We will review in the month of October, make a decision, communicate with the clubs, apply for the funding. Hopefully then the funds reach us by November. The foundation is very quick. We do normally get turned around very quickly, and we then through our district finance team disperse the funds to the Rotary and Rotaract clubs. Reporting is absolutely essential. It's critical that during the lifetime of the project, we receive regular reports. We do ask for them monthly, although most clubs don't submit them monthly, but every time a milestone is reached, some projects are very short. So there may only be one report required at the end of the project. If it's a project happening over 3 or 4 months, then we do ask that every month you send us an update, how much money you've spent, photographs, receipts, etc. And we can help you to prepare a report and let you know exactly what is required. The final report should be submitted a month before you complete, or at the very least at the end of the project. What we need to see is how the money was spent. We need to feel confident that the money you were given was spent for the purpose it was intended. So that includes receipts. If you buy, 2 bottles of water, we need a receipt for that. And of course, it goes without saying that Rotarians themselves and Rotaractors themselves should not financially benefit from any grant funding. I think that should go without saying, but so grant reporting is an essential element of the stewardship of the funds. And I know that Pdg Lara is on the call, and Lara is particularly vigilant when it comes to things like financial stewardship. And as a district, it's something that we really have paid a lot of attention to and keep focusing on, so that clubs really do have proper records, proper financial statements. This should be something that you're accustomed to as business professionals anyway. So make sure that your reporting through the life of the project is regular. To me, you can always just send it to me and I will share with the rest of the team. But we do need to see how the money has been spent. At any time during the process, we can ask to see the progress of the project. We can ask for a financial statement. We can ask for a bank statement. This is money that the district has granted. Yes, you have put money into the foundation. So this is a return on your investment, but it is a shared fund. So we do need to be able to, if we think there's a problem or we have questions, to be able to sit with you and ask questions and understand how the club is spending the funds. And also, if we choose to amend any of the requirements it wouldn't be during a Rotary year, but perhaps for the following Rotary year, we do have that right. And we will, of course, communicate that to the clubs. So the qualification, similar to the eligibility, you have to be eligible to qualify. So the eligibility criteria you should have completed. That means you are qualified for 1 year. So every single year of a Rotary year, you have to re-qualify your club, right? That means every year you have to meet the giving requirements, appoint a foundation chair, upload your goals, attend a grant seminar, etc. So qualification is for 1 year only. Now this is for district grants. Global grants may have slightly different requirements or qualification criteria, but we do recommend for any type of foundation activity that every year you attend the grant seminars. Of course, you have to appoint a foundation chair and so on. A club may be disqualified, suspended. We may ask for the money back. If we suspect or there is any kind of allegations, we will of course conduct an inquiry. We will of course speak to as many stakeholders as possible. But if we have been advised that there's been some sort of negligence or there has been conflict, there are conflicts of interest, of course, anything illegal, it goes without saying that you are not to use the funds to purchase firearms or, you know, anything of that nature. So it's important. Yes, there's a lot of trust. And I'm happy to share with you that as far as I know, we have never had to disqualify a club in our district yet. But it's important that, you know, you are representing our brand. So when you go into the community, you execute a project with Rotary Foundation funds, we want to be sure that the integrity of our brand is maintained so that the money is properly spent and reported. So fraud, giving money to, you know, somebody who's not a registered company, these sorts of things. And if you have any questions, so a good example is in Trinidad, we have what they call procurement regulation legislation. So if an NGO like a Rotary Club receives money from the government, let's say we get a grant from the government, one of the criteria for spending that money is that for any service we are purchasing, we must get 3 quotes. So we want to have an event, we have to get 3 quotes from 3 hotels, or we're looking for somebody to provide transport for a project, we must get 3 quotes. This is to show transparency, equity, etc. However, in some countries, there may only be one vendor who provides that service because it's a smaller community or it's not a particularly popular service or what have you. And that service may even be delivered by a Rotarian or the husband of a Rotarian, because we live in small communities. If you come across a situation like that in the execution of your project, my advice to you is to stop, send me a note, give me a call, and just check. Is it okay? This is the paper trail. Make sure you've got it properly documented. The club must make a decision why we are choosing to give the contract to Bobby's Ice Company when we know full well that Bobby is a Rotarian, because there's nobody else in the country that sells ice. I mean, ice is probably not a great example, but you get what I'm going. Make sure you document properly why that vendor was chosen, why you were unable to get multiple quotes. As far as you possibly can, get multiple quotes, get different, put out a proposal. I know it's only a little bit of money, but transparency is critical. So put your procurement plan, your stewardship plan in place so that there are no questions down the line that may, may challenge your club. Okay, I'm aware of the time, so let me just quickly wrap up. There are 2 members of the club that must be appointed to manage the project. Of course, the stewardship requirements are all online. All of this information is there, and we must not ever have any conflict of interest. There must be a financial management plan, which I've talked about already, segregating duties. If you're purchasing any assets, any equipment, you must make sure that you keep a proper inventory system. If you're buying computers for a school, or you're buying photocopiers or some wheelchairs or anything like that, it's important that those things are properly recorded. And if hopefully the club isn't going to own the asset, but it may be that you're purchasing something that you wish to use in multiple communities. So if it's an asset that's going to belong to the club, you have a proper asset registry, insurance for the asset, and so on. So it's really important. And if you have any questions about the financial stewardship management side of grants, please ask. We are here to support you to make sure that you walk the right path. So the financial planning, most clubs have an accountant, most clubs have business owners who manage finances, manage, profit and loss statements. You're accustomed to inventory. So this should not be difficult for Rotary clubs to do. As I mentioned about bank accounts, of course, 2 signatories is a requirement. You are not allowed to invest grant money. It must be used for the project. It cannot be put into an investment account. And of course, it should be a reputable bank. It cannot be the Sonia Allen Bank of Barbados. It needs to be a proper bank that we know, is a legitimate bank. Okay, so record keeping is critical. Keep them available, store them in the cloud so that we can go and look at them. Make sure that you keep them for a period of time, because even if the project has finished, we may come back to you 3 or 4 months later. This is particularly important for global grants because they're large sums of money. There are multiple partners. So your record keeping has to be absolutely top of the line. We do have a club not in our district, in another district that I am working with, who is about to be terminated because they have not submitted their final global grant report. So Rotary will terminate your club if you do not maintain the proper documents and records and reporting. So, okay, I'm going to go through the MOU because I did say this already, and I know we have a lot to get through. District grants are important, but I don't want to spend too much more time on this because it will be emailed to you. So when you apply for a grant, we are going to ask you to fill in an application form. We are going to look at things like the community that you're serving, whether there are Interact and Rotaractors involved, how sustainable is the project. So the application form does go through in great detail the information that we require from you. And of course, a budget is going to be required. We really do recommend that the smallest amount of your budget be allocated to labor. We really ideally should not be paying people to do Rotary work. However, there may be exceptions where a professional scaffolding company is needed, or you actually you're paying a teacher to come and teach a particular course for train the trainers or something. But the majority of the funding should be really for the supplies and other equipment. So just to wrap up, these are some examples of projects that we have recently in the last couple of years awarded district grants to, and they really do span the spectrum of the 7 areas of focus, from environmental projects, water and sanitation, technology, education. So there's really no limit to what a district grant project can be, except of course for the fact that there's a $30,000 limit. And my last comment to you all is, as Wadi said, we have 72 clubs in our district. Every year, I think the most applications we have ever received was 11 grants. Not every club who applies is going to be awarded. Not every club who applies will be awarded the full amount they have asked for. But if you don't ask, you don't know. So I really want to encourage clubs, especially our Rotaract clubs who are now getting into the whole Rotary Foundation vibe. Give to the foundation and then apply for grants. You might only get a piece of the money that you're asking for, but some is better than nothing. And the district grant team is here to help you, guide you, support you. So please reach out to us for anything you need. Thank you very much. Look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Pdg Lara, for that very, very concise, but certainly informative sessions. All right, now I know that both of you spoke, and I know that, you know, Wadi really focused a lot on how the foundation became the foundation, how we can benefit from contributing to the foundation, whether it's through polio or whether it's through EREY. And I certainly would encourage clubs to, if they can build EREY into their subscription dues, or certainly encourage members to give at least $25 annually to the foundation, because you give and you get back. And I have personally experienced that, and clubs that I have been associated with has experienced the good part of it. Now, one of the main things I think that for me is a big takeaway, and I think that the others should on the call should be very, very cognizant of, is doing your community assessment. Because at times we assume the communities want something and we go into it, and then when we walk away, the project is not sustained, and so you would have invested money and time, and it falls apart. So community investment, community buy-in, getting the locals involved, I think is vitally important. And of course, applying for grants. Applying for grants is key. And you know, we have a lot of persons, a lot of clubs who don't apply for our district grants. So we do have, and I know now it is rolled over. Before I heard it was sent back, but it is rolled over. But let's capitalize on what is, you know, we've given, so we can get to do our grants, and of course global grants, bigger, more impactful projects as well. So thank you both, excellent presentation. I think we'll have to rerun this for the Rotaractors who are now eligible to be part of applying for grants as well. So at this point, I'd like to hand over to Pdg Lara to take us through the Q&A session. Pdg Lara.
Thanks, Liz. We have our first question is from Tanya, and she asked, for a global grant, can we partner with a Rotary Club in our district, or does the partnership have to be outside of our district? Very good question. Pdg Wadi, or would you like to take that?
Yeah.
Yes. As far as I know, it's possible. In theory, yes, it can be done, since our district consists of different countries. But I would say, I would not suggest it, because yes, you can do it, but still I would look for a partner in another district. Why? Because then you can tap into the DDF of that other district. So it will make it your budgeting and the finance of your budget much more easier if you have really a international partner out of our district.
Great, thanks so much for that, Pdg Wadi. Pdg Lara, anything to add?
No, I would agree with Wadi. I think it can be done. It's not against the rules, but it's not ideal. And I think that the broader the scope of your grant, global grant, in the sense of getting professional support from a club in North America or in Europe can really add value. A lot of us in the Caribbean have very similar experiences in our projects. So it may be really useful to actually partner with a club in a different part of the world that has a different point of view about projects and different. So I think you benefit from that expertise and that engagement. So yeah, I would agree with him. I think that certainly if we can partner with, Tanya's in my club, so I'm getting worried now that she's lining us up to apply for a global grant. But yes, I think that external the district is it. But now remember, we have 70-20, which is the Northern Caribbean. So they also have multiple islands, but that could be considered an international partner. So you don't have to go all the way to Australia.
Great, excellent perspectives. Thank you both so much. Our next question, I am slightly confused, but I'll ask it nonetheless. It's from Charles. This might be a hard question, but if clubs do not donate to the foundation, should they not be allowed to ask for and receive grants? I think in Pdg Lara's presentation, it was that was one of the eligibility requirements. You had to have donated within the past 3 years.
Correct.
Charles, is it that you're asking that even though they didn't donate, if they shouldn't still be allowed to receive grants? Could you just clarify your question, please?
Charles has to be unmuted.
Let me. Okay, Charles.
Sorry, I'm missing so much because my internet connection, unfortunately, is really bad. So it keeps freezing. So I actually missed what you said, Leah. If you could repeat it, please.
Oh, sure. I was just asking for some clarification on your question, which was whether clubs who don't donate to the foundation should still be allowed to apply for and receive grants. Because
okay, I had done recently, I did the RLI training, and I may have misunderstood that it was not, and I guess I must have missed that in the presentation today. So if that is the case, that it's now that you have to be, your club has to be donating, I apologize for asking a question that has already been answered.
No, that's
Okay,
fine, Charles.
that's
And
fine. I
would
just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, I just want to say, Charles, that each district can set its own guidelines for district grants, and we have determined, in an effort to get clubs to give, that giving to the foundation is a requirement. However, the amount that you give is not connected to the size of your grant, right? So if, and I'm not suggesting you do, but if you gave $1, you could still apply for a $1,000 grant. But obviously we want to encourage the clubs to give, and clubs that do give will always be given preference. So the more you give, the more we can give, right? So ideally, and in our district, we have established that if you don't give to the foundation, unless there was some very good reason, like, as I said, a brand new club that just started, then we really would not consider you eligible unless you could make a really good case. And, you know, we do have that discretion.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, great. I'm glad we got that straightened out. The next question, we already know that Rotaractors can now apply for grants partnering with a Rotary club, but I received a question on that. What is the responsibility of that Rotary club in relation to the stewardship of the grant?
The Rotary Club or the Rotaract? I thought you were talking about Rotaract.
Well, because the Rotaract Club can apply for the grant with a Rotary Club partner, correct?
Yes, yes.
So
yes.
what then becomes the responsibility of the Rotary Club who's applying with them as a partner? Is there anything specific or does everything just fall on the Rotaract Club? I think that's what the question is asking.
Okay, what do you want to take that one?
Yes. Well, I would say that it is a joint, since it's a joint, at least that is what I understand, a joint project where Rotary and Rotaract are executing a certain project, that both of them, both the Rotary and Rotaract Club have, let's say, the responsibility to for the stewardship of the funds. I mean, every Rotary Club, every Rotaract Club, and even if it's your international partner club, we have, as Rotarians, we have a responsibility about what happens to the funds. So once again, I think it's a shared responsibility. And as a Rotary Club, I would advise them to see if that stewardship is being followed.
Okay, great. Thanks, Pdg Wadi. I have another private question that I received. How do you have any suggestions as to how we can tap into an international partner? Any recommendations?
Yes. May I, Wadi? Sorry.
Yes, for sure, Lara.
Okay. So I don't know how many of you know, but we have an active role in the Zone Foundation team. I am one of our assistant Assistant Regional Rotary Foundation Coordinators. I always get the acronym wrong. And ARRFC for this year and next year. So I have, through that connection with the clubs in obviously our 3 Caribbean districts, Puerto Rico, 7020 and us, as well as the Florida and Carolina clubs. So immediately, if you needed a contact or an opportunity to connect with a Southern United States club, we have that link. You also have, through your district governors class, the option to connect with, if you particularly wanted to partner with a club in India or a club in France, then ask your district governor, because he or she will have classmates that can then put you on to their foundation leaders and so on. Leslie, I think, has a comment on that. Are you telling us not to ask you, Leslie? Leslie says, please don't call me.
Not at all, not at all. But I also want to tell you on this same subject that this is why we have in the district somebody called a district international. So we have to make use of these resource persons we have in our district. And even more important, that all clubs should appoint an international service chair who can liaise with that district international service to assist you in finding outside resources, finding international clubs to assist you in your project. So just bear that in mind.
Yeah. And then the third thing, you're absolutely right, Leslie. So that's 4 things. 1 is through the zone team. 2 is your district governors network. 3 is our district international service chairs. And 4, I would say, is Rotary Showcase.
Yeah.
Rotary Club, Rotary.org has the Rotary Showcase platform where you can upload your project, ask for international partners, offer to be an international partner. Remember, it's not only, us looking to them, they can also look to us. So go and have a look at Rotary Showcase as well. So those 4 methods I would recommend off the top of my head.
Great, thank you so much, Pdg Lara, Pdg Leslie.
Not yet.
Leslie, not Pdg yet, almost, but another year and a half to go. Taking on that one as well, is it possible for an international partner to have multiple global grants at the same time? So if you, there's no restriction on that?
There is a restriction of 10, I think.
Oh, 10. Okay.
Yes. You
on
can
global grants.
On global grants.
On global grants.
Yeah.
Great. Another question I received, how would Rotaractors be allowed to contribute to the foundation? And if so, through what? Through their Rotary clubs, or can they contribute directly?
As far as I know, Rotaract clubs can now give directly to the foundation. And so we do expect them to give if they are going to apply for grants, yes.
Just making sure I have covered all the questions that were sent to me.
Just on that note, Leah, yes, they do, as Rotaractors, they have access to my Rotary on Rotary.org, and that's how they will contribute to the foundation. So yes.
Okay, so when they partner with a Rotary club for a grant, then this is just me thinking it out.
Both clubs have to have given.
Okay, that's what I was about to ask.
Yeah.
Who does the requirement fall on, the Rotary club or both?
Both.
Both clubs.
Now, yeah, and I think it's important to state, because Rotaract is just beginning this foundation journey, we are not expecting them to give huge sums of money, but we want to educate Rotaractors to start giving, whether it's E-Ray, whether you build it into your annual dues invoice, because they're very unfamiliar with the foundation, many of them. So the idea is for them to start giving, but we don't expect huge sums of money in the first couple of years. I mean, unless, obviously we would love it if they did, but I think it's really more that we want them to give. If it's a little bit, great, but they have to, both clubs have to give.
Okay, great. Thanks for that clarification, Pdg Lara.
Okay.
Another question in the chat: if the financial statements were prepared by an external financial company, should the financial statements additionally be audited? I think that was one of the eligibility requirements.
That's right. As far as I'm concerned, Agnes, and thank you for the question, audited financials are not essential. but externally prepared financial statements are. So it doesn't have to be a properly, I mean, if you're doing a really big project, and Wadi may be able to provide insight for global grants, audited financials are always the gold standard, right? Obviously, that would be the ideal scenario. But if that's too expensive for your club, the project's not big enough, it just doesn't warrant it, externally prepared financial statements would be accepted for a district grant. Wadi, I don't know if that's different for global.
No, I think this the same for global.
We just don't want a Rotarian preparing your financial statement.
What's important in global grants, but also district grants, is that you really the stewardship with the funds. I mean, how do you go about the accounts? How do you report financially? That's very, and the documents underlying all the expenses. That is what very critical.
Yeah, and I would add, oh, I see Son, just before Sonia and Liz, that many clubs, including my own, also apply for grants outside of Rotary, the UN, the Commonwealth, all of the, there's 1,000 foundations you can apply to funding for. All of them require audited financials. And most of them require that you have a separate bank account to receive funds. So it's good practice anyway, right? Yes, I'm going to turn off my mic now.
Okay, DG Sanya, followed by moderator Liz.
Thanks so much. I just wanted to really say, in relation to our Rotaractors, it's really important that we as members of the Rotary family stick close to our Rotaractors. Don't leave them hanging. It is so important that we guide and we nurture them and show them the right way. While we are looking to them and asking them to be contributors to the foundation for their own benefit, of course, we cannot just leave them hanging. Many Rotary clubs at this point now say Elevate Rotaract means that y'all are out on your own. Y'all do your own thing. Y'all paddle your own canoe. That cannot be the way that, as a member of a family, that we treat our children. Yes, they're adults, and yes, they are doing these things and they have great ideas, and truthfully, I feel I want to be a Rotaractor again, but I think that we must be able to support them in whatever way. And this is my appeal to all members of the Rotary family, of the Rotary clubs on this call, to ensure that your Rotaractors get the support, the encouragement, the mentorship, the feeling of family that we are hoping that they will come to our Rotary club to be later on. So ensure that they know what is involved when we're talking about getting grants, that they know that how to access them, how to make contributions to the foundation, but also in all other ways. So that's just my plea. As I sit in this seat this year, I realize how very, how fractured the relationship between Rotary clubs and Rotaract clubs are in our district, and how Rotaractors do not feel that they're a part of this great district and organization. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, DG Sonia, for those sobering remarks.
PDG in waiting, Leah. That's what you're going to call it now. PDG
in waiting. Very good. I like that. Liz, yes, you had something to add.
Thank you, DG. A very timely reminder. Thank you for that. And please, the leaders who are going in at this time, please take note of that. They are part of the Rotary family, so we need to hug them. We need to love them as well. All right. Now, I just really wanted to.
Liz,
yeah.
I just wanted to add something to the remarks of DG Sonia. Yes, in my year as a governor, talking to the Rotary clubs, I always say, whenever you have, let's say, do a project with Rotary actors, don't use them as horsepower. Use them also as brain power. So you have to involve them from the start of the project, the planning, not in the end when the project is being executed, and you just ask them, please move that chair or do that or do whatever. No, you have to involve them from the start. Use their brain power too. They have fantastic ideas, and we have to tap into that because we can learn a lot from them, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Wadi. Yes, brain power, not horsepower. Now, I really wanted to follow up, and Pdg Lara kind of dipped into the question because I have applied for a grant outside of Rotary, and it is a requirement. So I think that clubs really should set themselves to that gold standard of having their financials audited, because it is just for district grants, it's fine, you will get away with it. But if you want to apply for grants and from other organizations, that is generally the requirement to apply for a grant, that you have to have your financial statements audited. So you might as well have it audited for your own sake as well. Now, one question well, I'm not certain who will answer this, but anyone. Now, opening bank accounts, perhaps the grants chair, opening bank accounts, I know is really a challenge in our part of the world because of all the AML requirements, and it could be difficult sometimes to set up a separate bank account for grants. Is there any kind of area where you can apply? And I know that it has, but I'm sure others may have this question, but probably Pdg Lara, if you can perhaps clarify.
Yes, so thanks, Liz. As I said, opening a bank account to receive grant funds is ideal, particularly global grant money, because it's a large sum of money. And just my own club's experience, some years ago, we received a grant from the United Nations, and it was mandatory that we opened a separate bank account. What we did in that case, because it's a horror in Trinidad, is we actually got a letter from them to the bank indicating that it was a mandatory requirement for us to receive the funding. And so that helped sort of oil the wheels a little bit. But we do accept that if you can justify or explain to us why it's so difficult to open a bank account, especially for district grants, which are smaller amounts, you're going to use them in 3 months. So by the time you've opened the account, the project's finished, doesn't make sense. That's fine. What we do want to see, though, is the bank statements that show money coming in, how it's been spent, proper reconciliation, a separate spreadsheet that shows how the money was spent, the receipts for those funds, and then, of course, the ending balance being 0. So we would accept it being in your existing bank account. It should be in your fundraising or club projects bank account as opposed to your operations and admin account. But yeah, I think it's just important to communicate with us and let us know this is a scenario, could we use plan B? And no problem at all. This is what we're going to require.
Thank you.
But I think if you're applying for a global grant,
for sure,
I would absolutely recommend you set up a separate bank account. I think that's really the best practice.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Leah, any more questions?
Yes, I have one more question. If a club is not approved or their project isn't accepted, does the district grants committee provide any feedback to help them improve, or is there an opportunity for them to reapply? Pdg Lara?
Sorry, I was on mute. Sorry. Sorry, Leah, say that again. I missed the beginning.
Right. So if a club, if their project for some reason is not approved for a district grant, is there a possibility for them to receive feedback to improve their application in order to reapply?
Yes, we would give them feedback, and they're always welcome to ask questions. We would not necessarily accept a resubmission in that current Rotary year. because we do work with deadlines. So we would not then say, apply again in this Rotary year, maybe defer it for a year, tidy up some of the things that need tidying up and apply again the following year. So yes, we would absolutely give feedback. Just to give you one example, we have limited funds. So even though we want clubs to apply, we do have a limited budget to spend. So we have had one club in particular that applies every single year and has been awarded grants. In 1 year got quite a large grant. So we took the decision not to give them a grant the second time they applied because they'd received such a large sum the first time, and we wanted to prioritize funds for clubs that were now applying. But we will give that feedback. Or you might get a piece of your application, not all of the money. One of the things we did this year was we actually looked at the total amount available, and we tried to give everybody a little something rather than give one club all of it and then other clubs zero. So we do look at the whole picture and make a decision who gave the most, who's had grants in the past, that sort of thing will color our decisions.
Okay, great. Thank you for that clarification, Pdg Lara. We do have another question. For the grants accounts, is it necessary to open an account for each grant, or could you just have one generic grants account and every time you get a grant, you deposit them or the funds to that account?
What do you want to take that one?
As long as the account comes back to zero,
Sure.
it will be no problem to use that same account, and of course change the name of the bank account. That is what yeah, we did here in Suriname. So that should be no problem. But the thing is, why a separate bank account is because then you can follow, so to speak, you can follow the money much better. You know, you start from zero. Funds are getting into the account, and from that you can follow the money and what happened with the money during the project. That's the main reason. You can really follow it much better. But once again, if the account comes back to zero, you have finished the project, reporting has been done, everything is okay, then of course you can start, you can use it for another project. That should be no problem.
But I think, Wadi, if I can just say, a lot of banks, once you get down to zero, they close the account. So you might have to leave some residual. But I would also think
what I mean is
little. I think David wants to add a comment, but I would also say for global grants, for me, I think a separate bank account. I don't know, especially if you've got multiple at the same time, right? If you've got 3 global grants going at the same time, should you not have 3 separate bank accounts?
Yes, for sure. You cannot use the same account for 3 separate or two projects.
They're running parallel. Yeah.
No.
Okay, Pdg David, you wanted to add something to the conversation?
You have to unmute.
Yes, thanks. I just wanted to say the foundation is lenient recently with the bank accounts in that if it has a residual balance, as long as you start and account for that balance, that would sort of be your standard. However, you have to apply and get permission to use it first. Don't start and then apply. You must get their permission because they realize that, of course, it's very difficult in most countries now to either open an account or, even as Wadi suggested, sometimes you can't even change the name because the name change is indicative sometimes of a new account to the bank, and you go through the same process. So, but you must ask first and send the details of the account you want to use before you proceed. Thanks.
Thanks, Pdg David. Okay, great session. Last question, and I think it's a great one. In the case of a district grant, so Pdg Lara, this is you. What happens on the odd chance that there are surplus funds at the end of the project? Is the club required to return the funds?
Okay, so thank you for that question, Bevan. So the short answer is yes. However, we will consider if, for example, the club said, look, I've got $500 left. Could we purchase something in addition to our original project to help the community? Because it's a nightmare to get the money back and forth, and you know, we know what it's like. So if the club can reasonably suggest how that surplus could be used on the same project, an extension of that project, then we would be very open to that. We also had a recent example where a project that didn't happen the way the club had intended in their original application was changed. So the funds were being used in a different way than originally intended. We approved that change. But again, you need to be very clear. You know, originally we had thought we wanted to buy a wheelchair. Now the community said they actually need a hospital bed. This is why. Could we use the money for, you know, A instead of B? We're normally okay with that, as long as it's not sprung on us after the fact. So I would say if you're getting to the end of your project and you think there's going to be a surplus, give us a call or send me an email and see if the funds can be used in the community. That's what they're intended for. But if you can't spend them, absolutely you need to give them back.
Great. Thanks so much, Pdg Lara. Thank you, Pdg Wadi. Thank you to the participants for all of your excellent questions. That's it for Q&A. I hand back over to District Trainer-elect Liz.
Thank you, PP Leah. Excellent session. I know the more we wait, we can probably go on for a long time, because this is always like membership, an area that's a lot of questions, a lot of clarifications are needed. And I can add too that, you know, last year we did apply and was granted a partial district grant. And we, because our project was a project that attracted a lot of contributions from the community, we had some monies left back, and we applied to repurpose that at the same area, but in a different, you know, at the same project, but in a different area. So we were doing a garden, and when we were finished, we had a surplus, and we asked, could we now use those funds to improve the life in the kitchen, provide some training, provide some utensils, and we were granted. So thank you, Pdg Lara, for allowing us that opportunity. The persons are really happy that they were able to get now new stuff in their kitchen as well. So we can repurpose some leftover funds as well. So thank you all. I think it was a great session. So I'd like to hand over to our district governor incoming to close this session, and we'll take a break, and then we will restart after he's finished here. For 5 minutes, we'll take a break. But DGE, all the PDGs, DGE, Leslie, over to you.
Thank you, Liz. Indeed, we've had 2 hours, full morning, 2 hours, very, very detailed information on the Rotary Foundation, our foundation. Both presenters, Pdg Wadi and Lara, certainly gave you very, very detailed information. Wadi, of course, spoke on the history and what the foundation was about, why we should contribute, and Pdg Lara was very clear on every aspect of grant application, what it takes to apply for a grant, and how we should go about that. So to you too, for your wonderful presentations, thank you very much. Folks, I want to suggest to you that you should now, with this information at hand, you can further develop your knowledge on the foundation by going to the Rotary Learning Center, logging on to the Rotary Foundation page, and certainly you can bolster the knowledge that you have acquired today with more details of the foundation. And this is really important if you want to apply for grants and be successful in doing it. So to Lara and Wadi, thank you so much for your presentation. Very, very detailed. I really appreciate it. And of course, I can say this for you, that you both are available for any question from any of the participants and beyond for the rest of the year. So thank you very much for participating. Attendees, as Liz said, we have a 5-minute break. Please do not leave, come back on. We do have a presentation by our President-elect, Jennifer Jones, a theme presentation. So I encourage you to stay on. to listen to it in 5 minutes. Thanks again all for participating. The questions alone said a lot about the details of the presentation. Glad to still see that we have quite many persons remaining on. So at this point, we have more or less concluded our virtual PETS presentations. Our next event will be on Thursday at the conference, 2 p.m. Barbados. But before we get there, for those of you who have not seen or heard our President-elect's presentation, when she was introduced and when she announced a theme, I thought it is a good idea that we should listen to her presentation, because President-elect Jennifer is a wonderful person. She's very passionate whatever she does, and she's very concerned about the care of our Rotarians. Very, very concerned. And you know, this coming year, our focus is very much going to be on how we see after our Rotary brothers and sisters. It's very important. If retention is to be important, we must take care of our members. So I thought it was a good idea to present President-elect Jennifer's theme presentation to you when she was introduced. So.
On August 14th, Nick and I made our way to Evanston, Illinois, home of our Rotary International headquarters and our new home for the next 2 years. I must confess, I was incredibly excited to finally sit in my president-elect office, to work from a space that I have respected for years. And it was also nice to work from someplace other than my dining room table. Within the first week, I received a private message from a Rotarian early in the morning. He said, "I'm not sure if you remember me. You've spoken at our club and we met in Hamburg." He went on to say that he had a long-shot favor to ask me. His club had a relationship with a scholar and peace activist in Kabul, Afghanistan, a young woman who was now in danger. Was there anything I could do to help get her onto an evacuation plane? He told me that smartphones were being confiscated and she was using hers with a private network to mask where she was phoning from. We all remember the scenes as thousands of desperate people were trying to flee from the Kabul airport. From the comfort of my new office and sitting behind my big desk, I suddenly felt very small. Who was I, and what could I possibly do? A few years earlier, Pat Merriweather, one of our incoming Rotary International directors, introduced me to a peace fellow who held the kind of position that could influence this type of situation. Now, it was my long shot. I reached out, and that certain Rotary magic that we all know so well took over. It's the Rotary Peace Fellow who's the hero of this story. I don't know everything that happened, but in less than 24 hours, the young woman was on an evacuation list. 2 days later, we learned she was safely en route to Europe for further processing. Imagine her thoughts that day as the plane launched into the sky. This, my friends, is the power of Rotary. When the right connections are made, the world aligns and our stories merge. Our differences dissolve, and the only limit to our impact is the barrier of our imagination. I want to take you to November 9th, 2014. Nick and I found ourselves on the rooftop of a hotel in Berlin, looking down on over 1 million people. They were there in jubilant celebration at the 25th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall, also known to us as the end of the Cold War. Earlier that day, at an event hosted by past President Holger, I met a woman by the name of Tatiana Jury. At the time, 25 years earlier, she was a fresh-faced young radio reporter in the east of Berlin. She shared, "We had no idea what was going on. My news director was having a nervous breakdown, and I didn't know what to do." So she took her tape recorder and she went out to explore, because in her words, When you want to grab history, you have to grab history. She saw thousands of people going back and forth between the East and the West. She saw people chipping away at the barrier, and she went back to her newsroom and she filed her story. As I heard Tatiana share this, the power of connection was once again weaving its magic. On that exact same day, I was also a rookie reporter. I was alone in a newsroom in Windsor, Canada, when the alarm bells went off, which means that something significant was happening somewhere in the world. I raced over to the old newswire machine and read that the Berlin Wall was coming down, the Cold War was ending. Just like Tatiana, I didn't know what to do, but I knew this was history. And when you want to grab history, you have to grab history. I went into the news booth and I shared the incredible news. Imagine the two of us being more than 4,000 miles apart and sharing in a world-altering experience. So 25 years later, when Tatiana and I met, we shared tears. I don't know whether the newswire story was hers, but I choose to believe it was. Only when we live in shared experience like this can we create world peace through understanding. And that world can only manifest when we commit ourselves to equity, human rights, and fairly allocating community resources. Or, perhaps as we all best know it, being fair to all concerned. As we strive to weave diversity, equity, and inclusion into Rotary, removing barriers is the key to inclusion, and inclusion is the key to membership. Well, this may seem like a new call to action. It's not new thinking. I want you to listen to the actual recording of our founder, Paul Harris, in 1933 at our 24th annual convention.
Rotary is shown open to representatives of all walks of life, to representatives of all countries and all forms of religion. Herein lies the genius and the glory of Rotary. While Rotarians differ in many respects, in two respects, they are in perfect accord.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. A few years ago, I was interviewed on an American television program. Just prior to the start of the taping, the host revealed something quite striking. He had been a Rotarian for over 30 years, but it was only recently that he got Rotary. He became involved in a project that delivered coats to children in his community, and for the first time, it all clicked. He saw firsthand the power of service, and he became truly engaged. He even went on to serve as a club president. Imagine, more than 1,500 club meetings before he finally got Rotary. So what lesson does this offer us? We must engage our members. My hometown, Windsor, is the automotive capital of Canada. I know my way around a shop floor, and I was raised in this highly competitive marketplace. When something wasn't working, we retooled. A plant would shut down for a couple of months to prepare for new parts or an enhanced model. The past few decades have been tough, as plants have had to shut down due to competitive market forces. Tens of thousands of jobs were lost, never to be replaced. So what do you do in this kind of situation? You adapt. It's taken time, but our community is now a world-class leader in agribusiness and cutting-edge medical and aerospace technology. We too must adapt and retool. Finding the right part to engage each member should be our core function. It comes down to the comfort and care of our members. A few years ago, my friend Bronwyn Stevens took me to a school in Melbourne. It was there that I met a young interactor named Peter, who told me, if you want responsible children, you have to give them responsibilities. Peter was on to something important. We don't have a problem bringing members into Rotary. We struggle to keep them. We're a revolving door in every part of the world. We need to ask our members what they want out of their experience, and then we need to provide them with meaningful responsibilities. It's our offer of hands-on service, personal growth, leadership development, and lifelong friendships that create purpose and passion. These are our responsibilities. If we don't serve our members, we don't serve our communities. And if we don't provide comfort and care for our members, they may never truly get the power of Rotary. And please understand, when I use the term members, it means Rotary and Rotaract. We're all Rotary members. We have been entrusted with leadership in our great organization. Now it's up to us to be brave and intentional in our actions and to let others help us lead. I am thrilled today to announce that starting on July 1st of this year, I have appointed a Rotaractor with the responsibility of becoming a Rotary Public Image Coordinator. I have officially included Rotaractors on several committees, and during our term, I'll begin to assign a select group of Rotaractors as President's representatives. President Shaker launched our Empowering Girls initiative last year, and it has resonated around the world. We will continue this bold effort, recognizing that empowered girls become empowered women. We have less than a year and a half to achieve the board-set target of 30% women in Rotary. We've come a long way, and already more than 110 countries have achieved this goal. That said, we have a long way to go, and 30% is the next stop on the way to 50. And you know, our members in Rotaract have already achieved this distinction. Speaking of embracing the different and unique, new clubs, and especially new club models, are vital to growing Rotary. I need your help with this, and I'm asking each of you to help form at least 2 new innovative or cause-based clubs during your term as governor. And then, and perhaps most importantly, instill in them and your existing clubs too, our comfort and care philosophy. Let's make sure we engage our members so they love their clubs and their Rotary experience. While we work to innovate Rotary from within, we're going to also place a special emphasis on raising Rotary's profile in the world, holding a global impact tour that celebrates our achievements. We're going to actively connect with thought leaders and world leaders in dialogue about how we can work together to address the world's most pressing challenges. Rotary opens these doors, and we need to harness our connections to deepen these relationships and create new partnerships. And the best part is, this can happen at every level of leadership. We all feel the impact that Rotary service and Rotary values have on us. Now it's our opportunity to share that feeling with others. I remember attending a Rotary meeting in Korea, and while I didn't understand the language, there was this wonderful moment when they started speaking in unison. It was clear from the staccato rhythm that they were reciting the 4-way test. I felt comfort in that moment, the kind of comfort that comes from familiarity. Our core values, our traditions, our heritage, these are powerful things that we hold true yet build upon as we imagine how we can be so much more. 50 years ago, an anthem was recorded that included this beautiful line. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hear that lyric as a call to action. We all have dreams, but acting on them is a choice. And when organizations like ours dream big things like ending polio and creating peace, it becomes our responsibility to make these dreams a reality. Imagine a world that deserves our best, where we get up each day knowing that we can make a difference. You don't imagine yesterday, you imagine tomorrow. Imagine a world without polio. Imagine a world with clean water for everyone. Imagine a world free of disease, a world where every child learns to read. Imagine kindness and hope and love and peace. And that's, my dear friends, why our theme is Imagine Rotary. Thank you. Thank you. Imagina Rotary. Imaginons le Rotary. Imagina i Rotary. Imagine Rotary. Sang sang hara Rotary. Imagina u Rotary. Shang shang fulun. I hope that it's meaningful in all of our languages. There is a great line in the song from the Broadway musical Rent. 525,600 minutes. How do you measure a year in a life? Some of you may be familiar with this play, or some of you may be more familiar with the Puccini opera that inspired it, La Bohème. My friend, sitting Governor Michelle Barrere, recently challenged many of us to think about how each one of us gets the same number of minutes. How we choose to live them is the important question. On July 1, the clock starts ticking. How will you use these minutes?
Thank you, my fellow Rotarians. There you have it. Wonderful, passionate presentation by our president-elect of Rotary. And if after all of these training sessions, this final presentation today, I really think that you would have got Rotary by now. So as we go forward to our year in service, and remember she said, we only have 525,600 minutes to complete our year service, to make sure that all our plans and objectives are achieved this year. So come July 1, please start the ball in motion. Putting forward all your plans that you have been doing with your AGs prior to July 1. It's so important that, you know, all club president-elects meet with the respective AGs to plan the year ahead. This is the time to do it, so that come July 1, you will be ready to take over. Indeed, again, a very passionate presentation by our president-elect. I really look forward to a wonderful year together as we imagine Rotary, imagine all the great things we can do in Rotary and make it real. Thank you very much. I think Trainer Liz is going to take some time now to just discuss our planning guide to make sure everybody is on the right page as we go forward. So Liz, would you like to take over here? Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. You know, as I sit and I was listening to her, I'm feeling so happy and excited because even though it took 117 years to have a female lead Rotary International, I think it is, I mean, her speech, her impassioned speech, I think her commitment, her drive will create some waves. No offense to the men on the call, but I think it will create some waves. She touched on quite a few areas that I think that is not unfamiliar to us. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, that is something that Rotary International has been pushing for a long time, but I think she has now brought that to focus and will focus on that. She also touched on our Rotaract family. Our Rotary family includes our Rotaractors. They're not laborers. They're not to be called. And I think it was emphasized in by our presenters. They're not just being called the day before an event to say, we need the horsepower. We also need to use their brain power. And so they can transition into Rotary itself. Now, what is also should be noted is that there is a lot of information on DEI, and this is something I know a lot of clubs don't focus on a lot. We do have, and we currently have a DUI chair for the district. And I think that this is something we should be knowledgeable about and know and understand some of the things that is expected of you. And DEI, I must say, my friends, it is not limited to gender. It is not a gender issue. It is much more than that. All right. So thank you all for your attention now. Just a couple of things that I just want to remind you of. I know that we would have submitted and we would have given you the President's Toolkit. I trust that you were able to go through that toolkit, and now is an opportunity for you to perhaps seek any clarification if you wish on that toolkit. But two important items in that toolkit I'd like to touch on. The first one is the learning support contract. Now, this is not a legal contract, but it's a contract that is meant to provide that support in terms of guidance, stewardship, and resources that you may need from your district training committee, as well as your assistant governor. So please make sure that you complete that, and that should be handed over to your assistant governor and used as a guide as he or she visits during the course of the year. Now, the learning support contract really, the first part ought to have been completed already, because that, in fact, is where you set what you expect out of these sessions. And the second part and the third part is really focusing on what you would have gained attending these sessions. Then we wanted to hear too, what are you going to do differently as you go into your role, take up this leadership role? And most importantly, I think, is what resources that you need. Do you need some more guidance? Do you need some more training? Whatever it is you need to state in that learning support contract and hand it over to your AG, and your AG will use that as a tool as your AG visits, well, I hope on a quarterly basis, but if not more often. It just depends on what's the norm in your club. And certainly I hope that it will be as often as possible, and not just when there's a problem, we call the AG. The AG's role is very, very important in your quest to be successful as a leader. I think it is. The AG is like, I believe the first speaker when we did our AG's training indicated that the AG is like a governor of the clubs in the clubs in that country. So please make use of your AG. The second tool is your planning guide. And I know some of you who would have served as president before are very familiar with the planning guide. It's not as intensive and as expansive as it used to be, but it's, again, another tool that will assist you in your planning and for you to complete and certainly sit with your AG to go through. So again, your AG can use that tool to help you through the years and to provide that guidance for you, tap in to know what is happening. It is not just what you say is happening. We want to know exactly it has happened. So that tool should be used by your AG together with yourself and your board as the year rolls on. So please utilize that. And again, if there's any question, please, any questions or comments or clarification, now is the time for you to place it in the chat box, or perhaps if you raise your hands, you can speak as well. One area I think that we need to clarify is what is happening on April the 7th. If there are no questions, or if you think about your question, you can still put it in and we'll address it. On April the 7th, yes, we will have the session on Zoom as well. DG Leslie, is it going to be the same Zoom link, or are we going to get a new Zoom link?
No, the Zoom link will be the same as the district conference link. So for the 3 days, the Zoom link is the same.
All right, so
we're going to circulate that if we haven't already done so, so that those of you who are not coming to Barbados, of course, you will be missing a wonderful opportunity to have fellowship with us. We will certainly miss you. You can participate virtually. Okay.
That's kind of a bit, I don't know if DG Leslie will be able to answer this, but if a club chose not to attend conference by virtual means, how do we get that Zoom link, or do we share that Zoom link with the President-elect, Secretary-elect? Could we just share that carte blanche to the President-elect, Secretary-elect?
Well, Liz, clubs are expected to pay $200.
Okay.
That enables the entire club to attend virtually by paying $200. Okay. There is a registration form that's in that link, so the clubs can register and so enable their members to attend virtually. Okay. So they
all right.
participate in PETS and conference.
Okay, correct. So, all right, so that's clear. So you need to register at the club to be able to access that link. So we would not be sharing the link, carte blanche. You will have your club register to attend virtual PETS, and you will have access to the link on April the 7th. Or another point about April the 7th, for those persons attending in person, we will circulate a draft budget. As a matter of fact, I think we have Pdg Lara on the call. Perhaps I'll ask him to explain what is needed, what prior preparation is needed for April the 7th. But I know we've already received a template, a budget template, because budgeting is really the last topic that we've chosen in Barbados itself, because yes, it is very important that each club have a budget. And that, again, is another area that clubs don't really pay a lot of attention to, having a budget. And the budget is not just for the treasurer to come up with. Budget entails the entire board coming up with each area. Each director will have a budget for their particular area. Pdg Lara, would you want to share?
Thanks.
Okay,
Thanks, Liz. Yeah, as you say, the budget is what brings it all together. So we're going to have some fun, and we're going to talk about budgeting, as we did prepare a template, both in English and French. So any of the president-elects or secretaries-elects or treasurers-elects are free to have that. But we're not going to spend a lot of time digging into details. Once you've looked at it and you have questions, we can answer the questions, and we can perhaps budget the cost of rum or the cost of other fun items at the same time. So I'm looking forward to having just a great time with everybody on the 7th at 2 p.m.
Thank you, Pdg Lara. And I know that it will be, I know accounting, budgeting sometimes could be a bit boring, but I know that you're going to bring it alive. That's why I've chosen you to do it. You will bring it alive. All right, I think that is, if there's no questions or comments or smart remarks, please, I'd like to invite DGE Leslie to close today's session and to move the vote of time. Thank you all. You need to unmute.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you, District Attorney-elect Liz. As I was saying, this is a very, very wonderful morning, full of information from our two presenters, Pdgs Lara and Wadi. Told us everything I think that we need to know about the foundation. Very, very information packed. And as I said earlier, my fellow Rotarians, you can enforce what was presented by both PDGs by going out and learning center and firming up your knowledge on the Rotary Foundation. So it's a lot of information that was presented. To our supporting PDGs, thank you once again for attending. We really treasure your support, and we know that we can look forward to you as we go forward as resource persons for the district, as you have always been. To our participants, our AGs, our president-elects, our secretary-elects, we do hope that all of our sessions have been informative, that you have all gained insightful knowledge on what is expected of you and what you should be doing as you assume leadership of their respective clubs come July 1. Our training was geared to really impart as much Rotary knowledge as we could to you. And I encourage you can further enforce your knowledge by going out to the Learning Center. Is something I will always emphasize that is so important. Thank you for participating. We look forward to seeing you again in Barbados, live or virtual, where we will conclude bets. The program there, as Liz already told you, Past District Governor Lyle will be presenting. Apart from that, we should have a morning presentation, well, not morning, a first hour's presentation from our Rotary International Director-elect, Jeremy Hurst. He's scheduled to be on at 2:30 p.m. So you'll have a full afternoon, and then after we go into bed. So thank you all for participating. Thanks to all our presenters. Thanks to our District Training Committee, participants, and to the host of this event this morning, Sean Paddy, for keeping us virtually intact and online. Thank you very much, and we see you soon in Barbados. Come Thursday 7th. Thank you very much.